Hey guys, this is Tyler with Analytive, and today I'm going to tell you the quickest way to blow your entire marketing budget. This is the Analytive Podcast. Hey guys, Tyler with Analytive here, and today on the Analytive Podcast, I'm going to tell you the fastest way to blow through your entire marketing budget. So the way that this started was last week on LinkedIn. I was actually looking through just the news feed there on LinkedIn, and I saw an article highlighted where somebody who works for a major agency, it was actually the Ogilvy agency, was winning an award for Brand Genius. And the Brand Genius Award is given by Adweek, the company or the publication Adweek. They produce articles and they highlight people who have been what they call exceptionally creative or very creative, have come up with unique things to do. And this particular person has been very, very creative. You know, they've started to integrate things with like Google Home. They did sort of a big ad push there that got them a lot of press. Like they've done a lot of really, really creative things. And one of their clients in particular is a fast food industry who, if I said it, you would know the name. And so this fast food industry has been doing a lot of advertising, and he actually won the award for the work that they've done for this fast food industry. Some of it has gotten into the political realm as well, where they're trying to take a stand on major social issues. And overall, do good things, right? I would say do good things. But as I got into the advertising, I was really curious, right? So they've been doing this for a lot of 2018. Obviously, the economy for most of 2018, at least till October, has been pretty good. TBD what the future holds, but so far it's been really good. So I wanted to see, is this advertising actually making a difference? So what I did is I found this fast food company, and then I looked at their holding company, right? The company that actually owns this company. And of course, they own several brands, and stock price isn't necessarily a perfect gauge of how well a company is doing, but I think it's really useful. And when I looked at this particular holding company, their stock price, it has actually decreased by about 15% year over year. And then this isn't one where it's just dropped, 15% in the last couple of weeks. Because again, we're in November of 2018 when you're listening to this. So around this time, about this time is when, the stock's very volatile. Facebook has gone down quite a bit. So who knows what the future holds. But just year over year, generally that this stock has gone down. And what's interesting is that their earnings are actually down a little bit too. Right, so it's not just the stock price, it's actually the earnings that are down. So what this tells me, though, is that this particular company has invested a lot in advertising and are actually trying to build a great brand, but it's not working. It's not actually driving sales for them, right? That it's not actually making a difference for the business. And one of the ways that I see that small businesses like ours or like our clients tend to blow money is they try and see things that this company is doing, and they say, we need to do what the big brands are doing, right? We need to take a stand on political issues. We need to take a stand on social issues, or even what's more dangerous to the bottom line is we need to be creative. Right? We need to be creative. They put creative up there as the most creative advertising is the advertising that wins. And that's simply not true, right? This isn't art, right? I mean, there's art to it. There's art in it, and art is important. I don't want to diminish art, but advertising isn't art. We don't just do it for the sake of creativity. We actually do it because we want to grow our businesses. And so as you move into 2019, if you're like, wow, how do I make sure that I don't fall into that trap? Well, I have a few ways to look at that. The first one is to say, make sure that your advertising is actually making a difference in your business. If someone on your team comes up with a creative idea, that's great. If your agency comes up with a creative idea, that's great, right? I love creative ideas. I think creativity is really good. But what I find is that a lot of times we say, oh, well, this will get attention, right? Or this will get exposure, or this gets impressions, or this gets some metric that isn't dollars and cents. And again, those metrics are important for us to understand how advertising is actually working. But at the end of the day, it has to drive revenue, right? And in the industry, right, in the ads industry, a lot of times we'll give awards to people for their creativity. This drives me nuts. I think really the most awards should go to people who drive the most revenue, not who are quote unquote the most creative or the brand geniuses. It even said he's always trying to capture the zeitgeist, right? The zeitgeist, what even is that? How do you even quantify that? ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to drive revenue. That's what's going to make a difference in the business for yourself and for us, for our clients and for our business. So another way that you can really avoid falling to that is to actually then make sure that tracking is implemented on all of your campaigns, right? If you're going to buy TV ads, if you're going to buy display ads, if you're going to buy Facebook ads, you want to make sure that you understand what the actual return that you are getting on those is. Now, it's never a perfect science, but if the answer is we have no idea at all, then that's not a very good answer to that question, right? And you need to dig in a little bit deeper. Now, the risk with this that most small businesses need to be willing to take is that your advertising will actually begin to look more direct salesy, right? And this makes many businesses uncomfortable, that it has longer sales copy, it touts more product and features, it pushes for buy a little bit faster, a little bit better. So that makes a lot of small business owners uncomfortable, right? They're used to the big brand advertising that doesn't have a clear call to action. It doesn't tell people what they should do, right? So this might make you uncomfortable. But I will tell you that the advertising that really works tends to not be the sexy stuff that you see on TV or that gets award for quote unquote brand geniuses, right? Maybe that raises awareness in the minds of your customers, right? Maybe, right? And that's a huge maybe. Like, I'd actually want to prove that, but does it actually drive sales? And I think the reason that this ad that I talked about earlier, or this guy who won this award, really piqued my interest is because this fast food chain, I hadn't seen an ad for them in a long time, right? And I'm in the advertising industry. I'm constantly looking and learning. And so he won this Brand Genius Award, but I haven't seen any ads from that company in literally months, if not years, right? And yeah, I don't watch a lot of traditional TV, and maybe their audience does, but I, do eat out from time to time, and I tend to be more sensitive to what's going on in the advertising industry just because I actually work in it. So, and I hadn't seen any of these ads. Plus, I'm not seeing a lot of these restaurants get built. I know where there's one in town, and I drive by almost every day, and I don't think I've stopped there in 4 years, right? Yeah, sure, my tastes are different than maybe their core audience, but it's just not driving revenue. The other risk with this is the particular stands that this gentleman took on a lot of these issues may or may not be in line with what's actually important to their key stakeholders, right? Do the people who eat at this fast food restaurant care about these issues? And you could argue with me and say, well, that maybe it's important for us to just take a stand on these issues anyway. And I say, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to, argue the political side of it. If you want to actually focus on the politics, that's great, but that's not really advertising, right? At the end of the day, advertising is what drives sales. And to me, this advertising campaign, this guy wins this award for being a brand genius, but it isn't actually driving any material sales to the business that we can tell, right? Stock price is backing me up on that. All my just anecdotal evidence is backing me up on that. So as small business owners, what I would challenge you to do, what I would challenge us to do is say, how do we ensure that our advertising is actually driving sales? Knowing that sometimes it'll make us uncomfortable, right? That sometimes it'll be a little too pushy or a little too salesy, that maybe we'll have to do some extra work, put in some extra time to track it. But we don't have billions of dollars or millions of dollars to spend on this, effectively these wasted resources. The other reason that a lot of big companies waste resources is because they have so many cooks in the kitchen, right? That advertising has to go through many reviews. Not this, the agency has to come up with it, and they are tasked to do something creative, and the board has to approve it. So a lot of times it gets watered down, it gets neutered, right? The advertising isn't actually driving the result because there's simply too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many people that have put their fingerprints all over it. And this is what I think people don't understand is about advertising. Is a lot of times we think the ads that are shown on TV, have been tested over and over and over and have proved to be the most valuable. Sometimes that's true. But more often than not, the issue is actually that advertising is just what happens to be most creative or was the best pitch that was given before the board. right? And it may or may not actually drive sales for the product or service. I've seen this many times, even with our own clients and our own campaigns internally. When too many people get involved, we lose the initiative, right? And then the ad just becomes a piece that we have to get out, a box that we have to check, rather than being intentional about ensuring that we were actually getting a good result for what we were doing. So if you really want to know the biggest way to blow your entire marketing budget in 2019, I would say find what the big companies are doing and do that. Now, if you want to make it the most effective that you can, I would say find the old school copywriters, find the people who test, find the people who actually make a living by selling, right? Who aren't, venture backed or who are growing profitably. Find those people, right? And there's many people from, now we're in an age where you have a lot of big companies that are saturating media. You have a lot of venture backed startups that are all sexy right now. But go back 20 years, 30 years, 100 years to old school copywriters. Understand the psychological triggers that people need. That is going to be the advertising that works for most small businesses. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule. Brand is important. But at the end of the day, if your advertising isn't selling, you're just not going to grow your business unless you have unlimited funds to do that with. So this is Tyler. You've been listening to the Analytics Podcast, and I'll talk to you guys soon.